Welcome to Spark Sessions. I'm your host, Sonya Locke, and this girl is on fire. Today's guest is Neeti Dewan, CPA, founder and CEO of Platinum AdvantEdge, president of TIE Atlanta, former Big Four tax leader, board director, keynote speaker, author, and founder of the Executive Yogi Academy. Over the course of her career, she generated more than $125 million in strategic savings, advised global organizations, built multiple businesses, and earned a reputation for helping leaders navigate complexity at the highest level. But what makes Neeti's story so compelling isn't just her success, it's the philosophy behind it. Born in India and educated in an all-girls school before moving to the United States as a teenager, Neeti brought with her perspective that would eventually become her greatest leadership advantage. The belief that power and peace are not opposites, they're partners. At a time when burnout among women leaders continue to rise, she's challenging one of the biggest myths in modern business, that success requires sacrifice. Today, we're talking about leadership, burnout, ambition, well-being, and what happens when women stop believing they have to choose between achievement and fulfillment. Neeti, I am so happy that you are here. You are such a remarkable woman, and you are such a great leader, and you give back so much. We didn't even talk about all of your work with TIE Atlanta and with so many other foundations, but you are really, truly an inspiration and such a guiding light. So cheers. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you. So Neeti, we always start with Roots to Rise and kind of like what shaped you to who you are today, where you came from, what your upbringing was like, and how that really has influenced your life. And I mean, you have such an interesting upbringing, and you're, like I said, you have your hands in so many different things. So tell me a little bit about, I guess, your upbringing and how you think that shaped you.
Sure. So, I mean, Sonia, as you know, I grew up in India, and I didn't move to the US until I was 14 years old. But those early years, I spent a ton of time with my grandparents. So just imagine this. It's a beautiful veranda in the city of Agra, the home of the Taj Mahal, where my grandparents lived. It's evening time, every evening in the summers, where fresh cardamom is getting crushed and put into fresh tea. Nuts are getting roasted, and my grandfather is sitting right next to me and talking to me about my day. He's asking me, "What do you like? How was your day?" And then he would proceed to tell me about his day, because he was a businessman. You know, he had a shoe factory and he supplied shoes all across the country. And so he would tell me about his business challenges from the time I was 4 years old to the time I was 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I always look back at those years and I go, my gosh, you know, that was a time where I was learning about leadership. It wasn't in the boardrooms later on. It wasn't in some leadership academy or my master's degrees. It was shaped in those early years when I spent time with my grandfather, just talking to him. Because one thing he said was, learn to listen. And I listened to him, and in turn, he listened to me.
I love that. I mean, we have so many entrepreneurs that had an entrepreneurial family, and they're just talking about just those simple conversations and having it as part of their life was so important.
Yeah.
But the listening part and just like the simple conversations.
Yeah. So that gave me the roots, right? That gave me the roots of who I became. And then when I came to the US, that allowed me to rise using my roots. So.
But that had to be a challenge. So how was it? What brought you to the US? And then how was that adapting? Where'd you come first, or where'd you land up first here?
Landed right from India to Los Angeles.
Okay.
And straight in the valley. So my parents were moving here. My dad was an engineer, and he was joining my uncle's software company at the time. And of course, I was 14, so I was with them, and I came here. You know, a lot of people told me, Neeti, it's going to be so challenging. My gosh, you know, your Indian roots, you're going to have to fit into the American culture. And everybody kind of scared me a little bit. But you know what I found out when I landed here?
What?
It wasn't about the differences. The cultural background that I brought with me was actually my superpower. And people were very welcoming, extremely kind. And so instead of focusing on the tradition that I came from and then trying to change and fit into the American lifestyle, I decided I'm not going to choose one or the other, right? Both are very rich in what they bring to the table. And I decided I'm going to be the bridge.
I love that. I mean, that actually is, we've had a lot of people that were immigrants into this country and have had a variety of different responses, some trying to completely fit in and almost embarrassed of their upbringing. But that's such a beautiful perspective and at such a young age. So how did that work?
Not everything was smooth sailing, you know. Some people were kind and some were not. But I also realized one thing, that whatever you focus on, that grows in life. So there were some very, very kind girls in my middle school and high school who literally took me under their wing, and I made some incredible friends. There were just, you know, one or two who were not so nice. So you'll find that no matter where you go in life, right? So why focus on that? So I ignored that part of it. And I literally started focusing on the people who were bringing the joy, the happiness, the inclusiveness, and come on and join us and let us teach you about this. And we are going to a concert, come with us. You know, those are the people that I started hanging out with. And this transition was extremely smooth because of that. And I think that's something that I learned young as a child, because again, going back to my grandparents, right? So much of my thinking was shaped by who they were. They taught me that in life, it is not about who you are and how you react to people. It's about who you are, you decide that, and you react that way no matter what.
Right.
Period. And so I focused on the people who were great, and my life turned out to be great. Simple.
So tell me how you got into, I mean, the powerhouse of a businesswoman that you are. You had a very, very career. What drew you to getting into accounting and strategy? What kind of brought you into the business thing?
Great question, Sonya. So, my parents wanted me to become a doctor. I could not even fathom being a doctor. That's not my wheelhouse, right? Science and biology and chemistry, absolutely not. And so I've always enjoyed meeting people, solving puzzles, making sure the dots from different places connect. So I kind of have the knack for looking at all the pieces and then stepping back and looking at the big picture from a very young age. And so that kind of shaped me into becoming who I am today. And I said, accounting, finance, strategy, all of those things, you have to know the very basics, the intricacies of every business. But then it's not about those numbers ever, right? It's about what those numbers are telling you. It's a story behind it.
Right.
And so I really enjoyed that. And a lot of people struggle with the numbers when it comes to business, right? Founders struggle with it. They don't know how the business is doing. And if you don't know what your numbers are today, you're not going to be able to make the right decisions today for developing your business for the future. And so to me, that was the pleasure of literally being sort of the interpreter, right? Taking care of all the numbers for them, giving them clarity to business folks, and then painting a nice picture for them as to where they were today. So they know exactly what needs to happen to get from where they are to where they need to go. I loved it, and I'm still loving it after all of these years.
Well, it's funny. I always say that all CEOs have to have three things: people, culture, and numbers, right? Because that's really everything that kind of can drive no matter what type of business it is. But that's what's also very interesting about you is the culture side, because you really do bring the Eastern culture back into the businesses and also looking at a practical way. Tell me how you learned to bridge those.
So, talking about culture, people, and numbers. So when I was with some of these large corporations that I worked for initially, I always started with the numbers. I said, focus on the numbers, then the people, and then my gut. And as I've grown, I've reversed it. It's now all about focus on the gut, focus on the people, and then the numbers. Because if you focus on the gut, you're going to have the right people. You focus on your right folks, and you trust them, and they trust you. You don't have to worry as much about the numbers because they will take care of those numbers, right? And in terms of some of the things that I noticed in these large corporations was the badge of honor that everybody wore. Oh my God, I've been working so many gazillion hours. I haven't slept in 2 days. And you look at my dark eyes, right? And since when did that become something that you brag about?
Yeah.
Right? I grew up in a culture where I was taught that success is defined by who you are as a person. It's not about what you do or you produce. So you got to look at yourself before you start producing something and you decide who that person is. And all of a sudden, I land into these large corporations and they're talking about burnout, about working harder, faster, longer. And that somehow puts you up on a pedestal. And what I also noticed at the same token, but people were burning out. Right? And if you look at all the stats, 50% of most of the high stress jobs, people are lining up for the door. Yeah. And when people line up for the door, what happens? Your talent is leaving, that knowledge base is leaving. And then when the stress is elevated, the second thing that happens is people are distracted. People aren't at their peak performance. And so you're really losing out when you're pushing people so hard. So I decided I was going to utilize my background, and I came up with something that I call the Executive Yogi technique. And I call myself the Executive Yogi.
Yes. So tell me what that means.
All right. So an executive, Sonya, is somebody who focuses on the well-being of a business, right? Creating wealth, the outward success. A yogi focuses on creating wisdom, about working on the inner self. I coined the term the Executive Yogi because I think we can have both. When you put an executive and a yogi together, you put the wisdom of the East and the business genius of the West together. That's when you see phenomenal results and people stop burning out and people actually start enjoying what they're doing day in and day out, and you create a culture of joy, right? So that's why I call myself the Executive Yogi, and I teach people how to live like an executive yogi.
So when did you have that light bulb moment? Because you rose through the ranks, right? Mm-hmm. You were in all the big fours. Mm-hmm. You were with Fortune 500s. When did you say that you had a different path? When was that aha moment that you broke out on your own and started as an executive yogi?
So, it's easy to say now I'm the executive yogi, but it didn't start like this. Right? I've gone through my ups and downs. I was very young. I think in my late 20s is when I had started a bunch of businesses. I was wildly successful. My husband and I ran the businesses together, and we kept on growing and growing and growing. And we experienced such immense growth so fast at a young age, right? That I think we sort of forgot about the roots piece of my past, which was the calmness, the joy in everything that we do every single day. And one day, Sonya, we lost everything.
Oh, no.
The business had a massive downturn. We ran into a big bump. And my husband and I were sitting at a Denny's one evening. And I, being the accountant, I'm looking at our balance sheet and, lamenting as to the liabilities and how upside down we were. And then I just had a breakthrough. I said, I'm going to put this balance sheet aside. I pulled a piece of napkin and I said, this is our new balance sheet. I said, we have each other. We love each other. That's worth $1 million at least. We have our 2 beautiful kids. We have our family. We have our health. We have our minds, and we have the knowledge that we gained. So right there is our wealth. Now, yes, we've messed up in our business. Something happened out of our control, but we're going to rebuild starting today. And we're going to rebuild it in a very different manner. So we're going to redefine what wealth is. Wealth is no longer going to be all about what's in the bank account. Wealth is going to be about 12 different areas of our life: family, friends, health, wealth as well, right? Business, our home, and all of those different things, charity, etc. And we made a long list. And that's how we started defining wealth. And that was a turning point when I said, this is the executive yogi way of living. And we lived that way every single day till now. And it has changed my whole outlook of life. It has changed my whole life. It doesn't matter if there are bumps in the road. I still have a very joyful life.
I love that.
So
I love that. I mean, that's amazing. And next we're going to kind of get into more of the challenges and how that grows, but that's just such a beautiful concept. And one of the questions I usually ask my guest, and I think you kind of just answered it. When was that when you felt that your passion met your purpose? Because you definitely are someone whose passion met her purpose. But when was that?
So I think from a very young age, I knew that, I wasn't chasing titles. That wasn't going to make me happy. It wasn't about titles. It was about finding a very whole life, right? Something that had all facets that I felt very comfortable with. And I always wanted to give back to women and girls, especially. So to me, that was always sort of like the underlying thing in the back of my head. But then, when you're young and you're busy and you've got young kids and you're raising a family and you're running around in corporate jobs and building a business, you get busy and you forget some of those roots, some of those basic things that are so vital about you.
Right.
Right. And then when that downturn happened is when I said, this is not me. I'm going to reveal the true me, wham. I'm going to leave my ego behind. I'm going to pick up an attitude of gratitude, and I'm going to do everything in this life about leaving a legacy. And legacy has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the impact that I make on my family, on my community, and especially young girls of this world. Because when we take care of young girls, they become women who take care of the rest of the community. Simple as that. So I think it was a turning point when I realized that I didn't have to be one or the other. It didn't have to be about profits or peace. It didn't have to be about just, pursuing just wealth or just sitting in meditation on a meditation mat all the time. You needed a blend of both. And the minute I decided that that was who I was going to be, everything just kind of fell into place. And I think it's that one moment when you make a decision, things just fall into place in life.
And then look at where you are at now. I mean, you, like I said, you have a very successful global company with Premier AdvantEdge. You also run multiple charities. You also are like president of Thai Atlanta. Yes. And then tell me a little bit about what got you involved with Pink Foundation Pink, yes. Right?
Yes.
And tell me what that is.
Yeah. So the Pink Foundation is actually a US-based charity, but we partner with a company, this foundation out of India. And what we found is, several years back, 2 young girls were brought to one of our family's homes, right? Young kids, they were not orphans, right? To me, that's the most surprising part. They're not orphans. They had parents, but they were girls, so they were not wanted. Now, just imagine you have parents who don't want you because you are a girl. Like that really got to us. So a very good friend of mine who's in Jersey, we started kind of thinking about this and we said, we got to take care of this. We got to do something about this. And then when you look at the statistics of infanticide of girls and why is the population so skewed, more boys than girls, when the normal population should be very close to 51, 50 or so, right? So what's going on? And so we started looking into that. So we took those 2 girls in, and then slowly as we started building up, we're now up to 150 girls whom we support. We house them, we educate them, and we get them good education, really good schools, private schools. We teach them, and we become sort of like our homes that we have there is their family. That's it. Wow. And to me, that's one of the biggest things we can do in life is when success is not about just who you are and what you do for your own immediate family, because we all do that, right? When people are successful, they know how to take care of their immediate family, the immediate church, their immediate community. But how about going outside of that and doing something for people you don't know? And that was our whole impetus to start doing this and helping these girls. And 2 of them are in college now.
That's
so proud of
amazing.
that. Yeah. And then you had asked me earlier about sort of my background and the school I went to and how that influenced me.
Yes.
So I went to an all-girls convent school in India, Sacred Heart School. And in that school, somebody had asked me, did they talk to you about leadership? And did that influence you to start supporting girls later on in your life, right? In terms of what you saw there. And I sat back and I thought about it and I said, you know what, actually no, because it was an all-girls school. Nobody told me that a leadership position was reserved for a guy, for a boy or a man.
Right.
We were all girls. So we all took every single leadership position, right? I was a class captain. Our head girl was a girl. Sports, we were all girls and we competed and that thought never entered our head. And so from that, I think we just developed leadership skills in a very fluid manner. Now, after I moved here, I had kept in touch with that school. And when I reached out to the principal one day, she told me one of the girls had just become an orphan. She lost both the parents in a very tragic car accident. And that really disturbed me. So I said, tell me, what's happening with her? And they said, well, she's not going to be able to go to school anymore because her extended family is not going to pay for that. And I just could not believe it. So I said, I'll step up. I'll take care of her. I know it's not a hostel school, but can you keep her? You have nuns in school who live in the convent. Can you make room for her? And they did. And so I supported her education and through all the way till she graduated. And years later, I went back to that same school. And, I did a reunion of 25 girls who came from all across the world who were now, lawyers, doctors, surgeons, journalists, founders, very successful, who had all grown up in this little school of ours. We all went back and I got to meet that girl. And she just came and hugged me and she started bawling. And that, Sonya, is one of the most touching moments of my life. And I just said, you know what? Everything that I've done in life, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the great business, all right. I had an exit in 2001, great. I've built other businesses. I've had great titles in these large corporations. My family loves me, okay. But how about anything beyond that? That influenced me so much. And I said, this is the best day of my life. Like this, I feel I've made an impact. This is what life is all about, right?
Yes.
And from there came the influence to do everything else. So I partnered up with my friend who started the Pink Foundation, and that's what we do now.
That's beautiful. It's really beautiful. And I mean, you haven't changed just one life, you've changed hundreds of lives, and how many lives they're going to change. So it's just, very much bless you for what you've done.
Thanks.
So I can't think of another person that is better to talk about the burn and the challenges than you, because you have already said how you mastered it. I love your concept on wealth and how that is also giving back and everything like that. But let's talk about a lot of the different challenges that you had to overcome. Like you were taught you could be anything in an all-girls school in India. I bet that didn't probably shape out in the rest of India or when you came over here. So how did you navigate some of those challenges to get a seat at the table and not let it bring you down? Or did it bring you down?
I'd love to say it didn't bring me down, but honestly, yes, there were a lot of challenges. And there were times when I was meek. I would not speak up. And people would talk over me, especially the men in the room. And, being in the accounting field, when I looked around a massive conference room, it was mostly men and maybe 2 other women, and me and being the only woman of color or anybody of color in that whole room. So it was a little bit intimidating, I'll be honest. And there were times when I was meek. I did not speak up as much as I should have. And one day I was sitting in my meditation, and that's how I start my every morning is through meditation. And I started questioning that about me. And I said, Neeti, you used to be such a confident young girl. What has happened to you? What has changed and why? And I really started questioning myself. And I said, I need to turn this around. And I came up with my rule. So number one was be bold, no matter what. Be bold. And if I don't remember that, I even had it tattooed here. It says bold.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So when I'm in a meeting and if I don't feel like being bold, I pull this out and I go, I'm going to be bold today. But I came up with a simple rule and I call it the boast, roast, and toast, right? So that's my mantra. And I realize that no matter what meeting I am in, if I have accomplished certain things, it is my right to brag about it and boast about it. Because if I don't, the other women aren't going to speak up as well. Because the men in the room are all talking about the great things they've done.
Yes.
And even the things that they have not done and not taking credit for, right? So I said, one is start boasting. So boast. Second was toast. If there are any other women in the room who aren't getting the credit they deserve, I was going to be active and toast them in front of everybody, publicly toast them. Make sure everybody knows about what they've done, right? Their contributions. And the third is my favorite, Sonya. It's roast. And that is if somebody is taking credit or not listening or constantly interrupting me, I've learned to say, excuse me, are you purposely interrupting me because you think what I'm saying does not have value? If so, please speak up right now. So it was my way of roasting them immediately. And when you do that to somebody, they stop, right? And they're like, oh, I'm being called out. And same thing, if they're taking credit for somebody else, you roast them immediately. You bring it up. And that boast, toast, and roast really helped me throughout my
I think we need to do a toast for that.
I love it.
All
right, let's toast to each other.
No, I love that philosophy, and that is just that is so much. That is like the answer to like the imposter syndrome and stuff like that, because so many women have that. But you have to, one, be proud of your accomplishments, and be proud of your fellow women for their accomplishments, and give them that courage.
Right.
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah, and think about it. If we, as women, don't feel comfortable boasting about our accomplishments and what we are doing, or what we are contributing to society, how are the women and the girls coming behind us going to know about it or hear about it and go, I want to do that. She's doing that. I can do that too, right? So we have to be out there and tell and show other women what is possible so they can emulate and even be better than we are, right? That's the whole idea. So
what other challenges have you had that have brought you this remarkable wisdom? I mean, everything that you give me is a little bit of nugget of something that I'm like, oh, I need to remember that.
So, in my school in India, every year we used to go on a little girls' picnic, and we would just get into a queue and walk down to a local pond or a waterfall. It was in a beautiful area. And here I am, I would always have my basketball with me. I loved playing basketball. I was this tiny little thing, but basketball was my passion, right? So as we are walking down, I see this massive elephant running towards us. And so all the nuns and the teachers were just going berserk, going, everybody, get into the local homes, huts, whatever you can find, stay down, stay still, right? And I don't know what came over me. I just stood my ground, and the elephant came and stood right in front of me, a few feet away from me. And we are staring at each other. I took my basketball, I raised my arm, and I hit the poor fella right in his head. And guess what? It raised a trunk and bellowed. And the next thing I know, I'm running, being chased by this massive elephant, right? Anyway, the good thing was, thank God, the elephant's caretaker was there and he kind of got him under control. But in that moment, I learned, even as a young girl, as a 10-year-old, that sometimes, when you stand your ground and you look them straight in the eye, that has a massive impact. And in that moment, when everybody around me was in a chaotic mode, I was very calm. I don't know where that came from. Maybe it was my grandpa's teachings of meditation every morning when I used to meditate with him. And I've carried that throughout my whole life. So when I walked into boardrooms, when I walk into very difficult meetings, or I meet with difficult clients or employees, it doesn't matter who it is and what situation it is, I know then I can just turn inward for a moment and I think about that elephant, his eyes reflecting in mine, mine and his, that calmness. And then I just take a deep breath and I go, Neeti, this is the time to breathe, then be still for a moment, smile, and then you take action. And that has made such a massive difference in the way I come across and what I do. So think about it, right? You walk into a room, somebody's angry with you, or they are in a negotiation and they are just being completely unreasonable. Natural instinct is you're so irritated, right? You want to tell them this is how it is and we got to get it done this way. But that doesn't always work. So when there's chaos around me, I go inward. And when I go inward, it allows me to come outward in a very calm, methodical manner and take control of the situation versus letting the situation take control of me.
That's really beautiful. No, that's where it's like, I mean, you have so much wisdom on so many things, and no wonder that you're advising so many entrepreneurs all over the world, because you do have so much knowledge on so many different aspects of how to overcome challenge, how to continue to grow.
Thank you.
And
I don't know how much I'm helping, but my passion is about helping them, right? We all have something that we have learned throughout our lives, and we have to be able to share that. So same thing with Thai, right? We help so many entrepreneurs, whether they are in the beginning of their journey or they're at the end of their entrepreneurial journey, right? The success Thai has us because we believe in being net givers, right? It's all about creating wealth and giving that wealth back, distributing it. And wealth is not, again, defined by money. Wealth can be many different things. It can be the wealth, yes, that you built in the business. It can be the knowledge that you're giving back now. Right. And same thing with those young girls in India, right? I am a true believer that success can really be enjoyed in life if it's inclusive. It's not all about you. So when you share your success, it's kind of like the sunrise. But when you close up and you keep the success just for yourself, it's the sunset. Who likes sunsets? I want the sunrise, right? I want to be part of the sunrise, a new day, and do different things and enjoy life. So that's my philosophy.
What is the biggest advice you've given to an entrepreneur that's facing challenges or failures or things like that, the biggest advice that you've given them or you've received, but I think that you probably give them advice.
No, both. I've received good advice. I've given good advice. So one advice I often give to young entrepreneurs, especially and founders, is that not everything is going to be smooth, right? So you just have to be resilient, right? If this is something that you want, you just have to keep going and going and going. But you got to have some discernment in terms of what I'm doing, is it the right thing? And if not, you got to pivot sooner or later. Don't just keep doing it and think, I'm going to get the best result because I'm so brilliant, I've got the best idea. You got to look around. You got to keep pivoting until you find what's working, right? And then secondly, just expect that there's going to be a bump in the road. No matter what, right? Life can be great. Business can be great. You've signed up a couple of contracts. What's to say tomorrow a couple of those contracts won't leave, right? Or something happens, some regulatory changes happen that now you got to adjust your whole business around it. So if you start thinking in terms of there is going to be a bump in the road, prepare for it. That's it. So when the bump comes, you're like, I was expecting it. All right, I'll deal with it. No worries, right? That attitude gets you through anything in life. So, I mean, for me personally, Sonya, I built the last 36 years of my life with my husband. We built businesses together. And just 3 months back, I lost him.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so
That's
I
got to
lost
be the worst
him
challenge.
to cancer.
Oh,
And, we had an amazing partnership, but I listened to my own advice, even when it was very difficult. And I just wanted to wallow in my loss. But I decided, like, hey, I've told everybody, bumps are going to come in the road and we just have to face it. So I made a vow that I'm not going to let that loss define the rest of my life. It's going to be there. So I'm going to take that same loss and convert it into joy. I'm going to take that same loss and convert it into a beautiful life that we always had and keep going with that, right? To me, that was one of the biggest challenges of my life.
that has to be.
And look, I'm still smiling. I'm still smiling. I'm still getting out there, doing everything that I can, because when you lose somebody, you also learn something very special, which is life is very precious. And I'm still here. So I've got to make the most of it so I can make an impact on other people's lives.
You do make an impact. And I am so sorry for your loss, first of all. I did not know that. And that is truly such a challenge. And your
He's a great guy.
beauty on the inside and what you bring, it really needs to be shared with everybody in the world, because I wish everybody could think like you and kind of overcome these. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. But you are such a wonderful spirit. I don't even know what to say. Neeti, your entire life really challenges the thought and the norm that success comes at the sacrifice of well-being, right? And we've already kind of talked about, but this is really about the burning question, which is really the societal question, and how we can discuss, like, how do we fix this? And we can't solve the world, but we can try little bits at a time. So with Eastern wisdom taught you that early that power and peace are not opposites; they coexist, right? And I love the Executive Yogi; they're partners. So why are American women leaders still told that they have to choose between ambition and sanity? And how can we change that for the next leaders? I mean, 43%, which is probably higher than that, of women leaders report being burned out compared to 31% of men. 91% of executive women, significantly higher stress levels than before the pandemic. And I've seen this from every one of the executive conferences I've had. It's like way too many hats, right? And also the challenge of going into leadership, not in just the CFO role, but as every leader that we talk to, from hospitality to CEOs to CFOs. You have 60% of the workforce, but less than 10% actually make it to leaders. They burn out, they face. So how do we adjust that? How can we make changes for society?
Yeah. So I think, one of the challenges in our society, honestly, is, and in business, that the day-to-day business world was not built around women initially, right? And so it's like saying, hey, fish, here's a ladder, climb, and then calling the fish lazy, right? So if you look back at history, obviously, most of the business, the way our world was built was for men to be in business and who had, wives at home taking care of a lot of the other things, so they didn't have to worry about it. So then they were not burning out because they were focused on the power. Right? And eventually, I'm sure they also must have gotten to a point where they start feeling hollow, shallow, mellow. People have heart attacks, right? People start losing their health over time. You see that all across, even in men, but especially for women, right? As we are growing up, even as young girls, like if I did something nice for somebody, I was given such big accolades. Oh, you're so sweet. That's beautiful. That's nice. You're so caring. You're so loving. You're so whatever, right? And that's where we've sort of internalized that is who we are, and that's where our self-worth comes from. So I do feel that it's a two-edged sword. So it's not just the way the society has been and how women have been told they can't have both power and peace, because how do you have power and peace when you have no time? You're working long hours and you get home and you're taking care of everything else. You are going to burn out. So I think the answer really lies in also us women learning to deprogram ourselves and not worrying about being labeled as nice.
Yeah,
Like-
because that goes into the people pleasing, and that's what you
Yeah,
hear a lot of. Is
exactly.
like you're wanting to please everybody,
Yep.
right? And so you're continuously perpetuating that because it is.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's about, we also need to put up sort of the fences around us a little bit. And it's not to keep people out. It's really to keep our energies in. And then we decide when we want to open that gate, right? So like when I was in my corporate world, I was traveling, I was a, consultant running from city to city, country to country. And yeah, my kids are at home. I've got nannies. I've got my husband who is working locally. And, I made a decision that this is not going to work for us. It's very high pressure. Something is going to give, right? You can go on and on and on, but at some point you have to pay the bill for it. Right? Whether it's in lack of sleep, your health, or fights at home, something is going to happen.
Yeah.
So for me, it was all about, I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask for help. That's it. Let's ask for help. And I'm going to start saying no to a lot of things. So, Neeti, can you come and help with this? No. Can you do this? No. Why? No, I don't need to explain to you why. I just can't. That's it. Right? So that helped me tremendously. And I think as women, we have to learn to say no a lot more to people and preserve our own energies. And secondly, asking for help. Right? So at that time, like both my husband and I were running in these high-powered jobs, and I asked him for help because I still noticed I'm the one going home and I wasn't cooking as much, but I was still the one ordering and catering the food for the week and all of that. And I'm like, why is it always me? Right? I'm not cooking, yay, but I'm still the one who's still at the end ultimately responsible for it. I still have to make sure there's food on the table. And so I spoke to him and I said, listen, I love what I do. I love finance. I love accounting. And he's like, oh my gosh, really? I go, yeah, it's my passion. I love it because it helps me create those stories for businesses that I love. So I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love your career? And he said, 7. I'm an engineer, aerospace engineer. So I said, if I had to rate it, I would say 10 out of 10. So I said, now you tell me, if somebody needs to be out there working and enjoying, who should it be? And he said, apparently you. So I said, are you willing to take a backseat for a couple of years while the kids are teenagers? They need your time. They need one of our times. And he said, yes. So he stayed at home, took care of the kids while I ran around the world building my career, right? And at the same time, I asked for help from the grandparents. I asked for help from my friends who were there. So we got to ask for help. So that's one. But that's what we can do. But there's a lot that needs to be done within the organization that we don't have control over. But I think we have to keep fighting for it and asking for our rights that, hey, you can't schedule a meeting at 7 in the morning when most of us were dropping kids to school. Why are you doing that? Schedule a meeting after 8:30. Why not?
Yeah.
Or giving that flexibility to everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. Everybody needs a little bit of flexibility. And the minute you start trusting your employees, that's when the whole shift happens. Because it's not about somebody being there within their desk from 8 to 5 and showing up every single day and burning out at the end of the day, putting in 18 hours a day. It's about what is it that you're trying to accomplish and are you getting it done in the best way? And I always say this. It's not about getting to the end goal, the business goal that you have. We all are given sales goals for the business, right? ROI, EBITDA goals for the business. We're all looking at these KPIs. But what if we all burn out by the time we earn those KPIs? Is that business going to be sustainable? You're going to lose your best people.
Right.
So I always say that peace that we keep talking about, peace and passion, needs to be the fuel that kind of gets us there slowly. Maybe a little bit later, that's okay. But it's going to get your team members there in a very sustainable manner. You're going to do much better as a business. You're going to have better profitability when you marry peace power, and profits together.
Yes.
We got to make sure that every business understands that. And that's my message when I go talk to them, right?
No, and that's great. And, some businesses, I met a doctor and she is the wellness, chief wellness officer.
Oh, nice.
And it is all about the psychological health, the well-being of the staff. And they've grown and they continue to grow because they are putting that inner peace, because you can't just have everybody burned out, because then what's next?
What's next?
Yeah. Growth is about continuing to move forward, but to do that, you have to be sustainable.
Yeah. I mean, I remember this, in one of my Big Four accounting jobs, somebody on my team had made a mistake. It was something that we had to go back and communicate to the client, explain to them, and then, of course, come up with a solution as to how we're going to fix it. Everything is fixable, right? And we are doing accounting at the end of the day and finance, and not surgeries, life-saving surgeries. So one of the partners was livid about it. Like, I am the main partner on this. How could this happen? And Neeti, you're not being mad enough and livid enough with your team members. You got to come down on them hard. Like, why are you so calm about this? And I said, number one, the team is in the middle of their busy season. Second, they are right there trying to fix the problem. They've already communicated with the client. They're trying to fix the problem. Now, if I get up and throw a temper tantrum and tell them how upset I am, is that going to help them or harm them, right? So I said, I'm going to come out of my calmness and be kind. Be calm. And so that when I'm calm, guess what happens? I become the thermostat for the whole team, not the thermometer. Right. I do not want to be the thermometer that is spiking the temperature up. I want to be the one that is a thermostat, and I set the temperature for that thermostat. And my team got the thing done, fixed it, client was happy. We created new SOPs so that issue would not repeat itself. Isn't that a better way to deal with things like this, rather than throw a temper tantrum and show the agentic style of leadership, like, hey, this did not happen, you made a mistake? How does that help anybody?
No, I think that's where a lot of leaders fail, is they don't embrace their natural response and, try to, push to burn the candle and be something that they are not. And they're not going to succeed like that. Yes. And that's where it causes burnout. They're overcompensating, right?
There you go. So, anytime I have to choose between two options, I always choose peace.
Neeti, with all that you do, I mean, you like I said, president of TIE, the Pink Foundation that you founded, multiple global companies that you advise throughout all of your charitable work, which is so admirable and everything. You've touched so many lives, but what do you really want your legacy to be? What, because you are a legacy person. I usually ask people, what would they tell your younger self? But I think you probably already know that. So I think I really want to talk to you about, what do you hope your legacy is? What do you hope that you've inspired others to teach so we can create a better world?
Yeah, so I think, I've given it a lot of thought. And especially as you start getting older, you start thinking about what legacy you want to leave behind. And I want to be known for the person who taught people how to live like the executive yogi.
Yes.
Right? Where they didn't have to choose between power and peace. They didn't have to choose between sanity and their mental wellness and or profits.
Yeah.
So all of these things need to be together, intertwined, right? Just like an executive focuses on the growth of a business, and a yogi is a wise person who's focused on their wisdom, we really need to start living every aspect of our life in joy together as the executive yogi. And that's the legacy that I want to leave behind.
I think it's a beautiful legacy. Tell me exactly how you go about teaching them how to become an executive yogi. And I want to take lessons on that, because I love that.
So, I think we all learn from each other.
Right.
So I remember when I was very young, I learned from one of my teachers at Sacred Heart School. So I was my class captain, and it was starting to get really hard, because just keeping the discipline in the classroom and some of the rules that we had for the school, I would have to get upset with my friends who were not following those rules. As the captain, that was my role. And so one day I was crying, and I went to this mentor teacher of mine, Mrs. Tucker, and I said, I'm done. I do not want to be a leader anymore. Find somebody else. This is too hard. And she just looked at me and said, Neeti, no. Leaders do what is tough and what is hard. You are going to be a leader. Go back in there and lead. Simple as that. Take a deep breath, get back there, and do what you're best at. I've taken that lesson all the way till today. And the way I'm teaching others is, again, through stories. And when the going gets tough for people in business, I teach them, let's sit down, learn how to take a deep breath sometimes, right? Sometimes you have to take a pause to really sprint.
Yeah.
And when you unwind is sometimes when the best things happen in your life. And showing it by example, showing it through my example of life and what has happened, and how I've incorporated the executive yogi way of living by incorporating meditation, peaceful living, being kind, being generous, being inclusive and compassionate. All of those things don't make you a weak leader. They actually make you a damn good leader, right? They make you a much better leader. So the way I am trying to do it is, one, obviously I love to speak at conferences, and that's my message, right? I can get to share that message with so many people. And secondly, I founded the Executive Yogi Academy, and it's for women. And I, bring a cohort of women together, and we teach them how to become the executive yogi. So when they walk away, they're not figuring out, how do they live this dichotomous life of, power and profits. They walk away knowing exactly how to live it in one piece. They become one with it, right? And then, some of the books, like all my life lessons that I've learned, I've put them in 2 of my books, right? So this one is high-level leadership, low-level stress.
I like that.
So how to win in business without losing your mind, right? Wouldn't we all love that we don't lose our mind in business? And we all have those moments when we're feeling like we're losing our mind. So this has some of those techniques in there. And then, of course, as I mentioned, with my first run in business when I was very young, I had done very well, and then ended up losing a lot of it.
Right.
Well, then came the lessons of life in here, from executive to yogi in 60 seconds. And I talked about the 12 areas of life that I started focusing in on.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. So those became the 12 chapters in here.
I love that.
And so when I meet with women, we sit down and we kind of chart out sort of what are those 12 areas of their life and what's most important for them. And what is it that they want their life to look like? And then we start incorporating that meditation, peace practice, living from a piece of just stillness. And out of stillness comes the biggest breakthroughs, the biggest successes I've ever imagined, right? And we see that over and over again with these women as well. So that's my way of leaving behind that legacy, is through these books, through talking, through teaching. And I love that, right? Because it's all about not just what we've learned. Well, then it's useless. It just helped me, or just helped my family. That's not what life is about. If all of us took everything that we've learned till today in our life, in our businesses, and we spread that knowledge, we laid those seeds for everyone else, this amazing world would be even more amazing, right? So that's the whole idea.
No, I love that. That's beautiful. I always quote Admiral McCraven in one of his things where he was saying, it was at the UT commencement speech, and he says, if you can change 10 people's lives and compel them to change 10 people's lives, then in one generation, the entire world would be changed.
Yes.
And I think that's it. It's like that force multiplier.
It is. So remember that girl I talked about from my school? Well, I got a call from her a couple of years back, and she's like, is this Neeti, ma'am? I said, yeah, who's this? She goes, well, I'm the girl whom you supported years back. And guess what? I've got a great job. I'm married. And you know what I'm doing? I said, tell me. Now I'm excited. I want to hear what she's doing with her life, right? And she said, I am sponsoring 2 girls out of my village in India and
Oh,
helping
that's
them with their
beautiful.
education. To me, that was a full circle of what life is all about.
So I know you have the best answer to this because you are yogi, is fanning the flame and preventing, burnout, things that, ground you, or daily rituals. How do you keep your flame burning so that you can give so much to so many others?
So dawn belongs to me. I wake up at 4 in the morning every day.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Oh my
Everybody says
goodness.
that. Yeah. So I wake up at 4 and I start my day off with a nice hot cup of steaming tea. I love that, right? I have my tea. This is good. And then after I finish my tea, I do about 45 minutes of yoga and free weights, followed with about 20 minutes of meditation. And then I sit down and I write in my journal my goals every single day. And there might be the same goals every day, doesn't matter. Sometimes they change, over time, but I write them every single day. And I also look at the 12 areas of my life and I pick 5 for a particular day. And I say, okay, what am I going to focus on today? And at the end of the day, how will I know that I have succeeded in each one? So I'll put down one small thing that I want to do in each one of those, right? For family, it might be do a FaceTime with my granddaughter, Maya, right? Simple as that, something so simple. Or under business, it might be reach out to this one potential contact I had met at a conference. Simple things. But that kind of lays out the groundwork for my whole day, right?
I love that.
So instead of starting my day in a hurried, scurried manner, I'm starting from calm. So by the time the rest of the world wakes up, I'm already set. My day has begun. I am centered. I've done my breathe, be still, Neeti, and then smile, and I'm ready to go for my day.
Oh my goodness, I wish I could wake up and do that. I might try that for 1 week because that is really, that does sound refreshing. What time do you go to bed at night?
10 latest.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
To wake up at 4 and have all that accomplished, it must feel, that is really grounded.
But in terms of the sleep also, it's not about the number of hours of sleep. I mean, they always say, you need 8 hours of sleep, 7 hours of sleep, but all our bodies are different.
Right.
And then what I find is it's not about the hours, it's the quality of the sleep. So if you've had a really good day and you can get deep quality sleep, that's all you need. You don't need much.
Okay, so my favorite section is the fire round. Quick questions, no wrong answers, and you're gonna nail this. All right, coffee, tea, or cocktails?
Tea, absolutely.
Early bird or night owl?
Dawn.
One word that describes your leadership style?
Joyful.
I like that. What's always in your carry-on?
My tea bags.
Oh, that's good. Favorite place you've ever traveled?
Darjeeling in the hilltops of the Himalayas.
Ooh, that sounds beautiful. Did you hike or have to hike up to it or no?
No, but I just stood out there in the middle of the forest and the nature and the green tea plantations. Absolutely amazing.
Wow. A book that you've gifted more than once?
My book, over and over.
Well, we're going to start a book club for sure. What's one thing that you're unapologetically saying no to nowadays?
My time.
Yes. A piece of advice you find yourself giving over and over?
Be bold, be bold, be bold.
I love that.
That's it.
And I'm going to throw another one in there because I always like to hear this is, okay, what is your one guilty pleasure right now?
Tres leches cake.
Okay. I think you're allowed that. I think you're allowed that. That's a good one. All right. Final question. And we ask everybody is, what is your one spark, that one truth that keeps you going every day?
Stillness before strategy for life, strategy for business, just stillness. The minute you go inward, the outward becomes very simple and easy as well. When you go inward, it builds your outwards. So
I love that. I love that. The stillness. I mean, you have given me so many great life lessons. It has been such a pleasure having you on. You are truly remarkable. Thank you so much. And thank you
Sonia.
for all of your lessons that
What a
you've given.
pleasure
It's
being
been
here.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Spark Sessions. Until next time, keep the fire burning.